Kia ora, malo. Agus G.F.G.T. Welcome to Get Familiar, Get Talking podcast, hosted by the Irish Kiwi duo the whole world didn't know it needed. I'm Char.
And I'm Laura.
For our third episode, we will be talking about
relationships in our 20s, part 2.
Our topics are in-laws and what type of ex.
And if you haven't listened to part 1, go and check it out after this episode.
So squat, handstand, sit back and relax. So, have you got any stories about in-laws that you have in the past, or?
In-laws. Well, I suppose technically I don't have any in-laws or have had any in-laws in the literal sense. So boyfriend's parents, is where I will go. Like at the minute, the relationship that I'm in at the minute, like, you know, his parents are just amazing. And they really make you feel like you're part of the family and include you in on everything. And, you know, you don't feel like there's any sort of awkwardness there or any sort of tension there, because I have encountered that before as well. Like a little bit of tension that's like, you're going out with my son, and if you do anything, like, I'm going to kill you. And I'm just like,
wow.
Yeah. And like, so I haven't encountered that at all, which I was really lucky about, because I was really nervous meeting his parents as well. And I think that was part of why, because I had such a negative kind of, well, it wasn't entirely negative, but there were just negative connotations with the previous one. And I was a little bit worried about that happening again. And I was like, God, I don't know if I can deal with all of that again, because it's so stressful, you know. It was, you know, it was very much like it was said to me in a previous relationship. Like, it was said to me by one of the parents. They were like, you know, he's my only son, and if you do anything to hurt him, I'll hurt you. And I was like, oh shit.
Was this like a first, like, off the bat kind of encounter, or was it kind of like leading up to it that comment was made?
The first encounter was grand, and it was like oh hi, you know, it's nice to finally meet you and all this kind of stuff. And then, but it just kind of happened to get dropped in every now and again, and they'd be like telling me stories about when he was younger, and like someone was picking on him or something, and they were like, oh yeah, well, we sorted that person out because we don't deal with people that hurts our son. And like they'd look at me, and I would just be like, I'm sorry, I haven't done anything, but you know. And it got to the point where it was just like, it was becoming just a little bit too frequent, and I was like, I hear this, it's just starting to wear me out a wee bit, you know. I don't want to be listening to this and feeling like I'm being scrutinized for everything that I do, because I found then that I was trying to like overcompensate and be like, look at me, I'm like the top-notch loving girlfriend that'll do everything. And you know, he'd be like, oh, I really want a glass of water, and I'd be like, I'll go get it. Do you want ice? Do you want lemon? Do you want, you know, and just really fucking overcompensating and going over the top with being like, you see, I'm a good person, like I'm a good girlfriend, and all of that. And then at the end of the day, I would just be like, why am I doing that? Like, why am I going so over the top just to be like, I'm a good person? Like, if, like, I like to think that when people talk to me and get to know me, that they know I'm a decent person, you know. But I was like, it's probably really obvious that I'm going over the top and trying to show off as well, of being like,
isn't it crazy? Like, when you get in a relationship with someone, you have to like, you realize that if you want something serious, you have to consider the in-laws. Like,
I think it'd strain a relationship. Now they were nice enough to me, aside from the subtle comments and everything. Like they didn't hate me or anything, but like even just that slight sense of, you know, they're really watching me and they don't trust me. And if I step one foot out of line, or if I do anything that upsets them, like I'm gonna have to deal with them as well. Even that kind of sense it put a lot of strain. And I was really stressed, and he couldn't understand why. And then I would say, and I'd be like, you know, these comments are being made at me, and he'd just be like, oh, like, don't we messing, like, get over it. And I was like, no, but it's not fair on me that I'm getting those comments. And it's like, you wouldn't get that type of crap off my family, you know.
Yeah.
My parents would like, they'd never think of doing that to anyone, like, or making comments like that in front of someone.
No, never.
So, but I can't imagine like a relationship where they just out and out hate you.
That would be like a tough road. Like, I think you would not have any peace at all if you,
No,
unless
you
your
wouldn't.
unless your partner is willing to like, well, I don't want to say cut them off, but like, stand up for you.
Yeah.
And like make them realize what they're doing. But if your partner is like not doing that, then goodbye.
I feel like sometimes it can be quite hard to side with someone, or like say to your parents, like, don't say that, because it's not fair to say something like that to her, or that's making her uncomfortable, or I don't like it when you talk to her like that. It can be very hard to do something like that and to speak up to your parents like that. But I think it's important as well in a relationship that, you do have your partner's side and you are fighting their battle as well with them.
Yeah.
Even if it means standing up to someone that you love. Obviously, you moved from New Zealand to Germany. And you couldn't speak German. And from what I know of Marco's, well, I think I only met Marco's mum. I don't think I met his dad, but she spoke very little English. So how is it trying to build some sort of relationship with in-laws that don't speak the same language as you? That sounds complicated.
Yeah, I would be lying if it was like, oh, it's so easy, Yeah. But I guess there's like, oh, this sounds bad, but there's like pros and cons about it. It was really nice that she was like trying to learn the basics of English.
Yeah, that's so cute.
But like you can only take the conversation so far, So like at first we'd just say, hi, how are you? Oh, good. They will ask about the weather and stuff like that. As time went by, I told her that she should use more German so that I can understand more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I can understand the sentences and all that kind of stuff now, but it's just sometimes I can't expand my answers.
Yeah, go into like the details that you would if you were just having like a conversation like we're having.
Yeah, I would be like, yes, no, or like, like,
I love how you rehearsed those sounds out.
But she's like really nice. I'm pretty lucky with that because like I know that not everyone's in-laws are like as understanding, I guess, with like, someone from another country, because Germans raise their kids differently to like how New Zealanders do as well. So sometimes we have like oh, why do we do that, or why do we do this, and I always have to explain to Marco so he can tell his mum in case she asks or something like that. But it's not like, oh, why you do that for, whatever. So she's like more open-minded, which is like, oh my god, thank God, because
yeah, that's good, because if you encountered like a really strict, like, no, this is the way we do it here, that'd be a real conflict of interest.
Really bad.
Yeah, and I feel like that would put Marco in such a tight spot as well. Like, so I think even for his sake, it's good that she's so like, understanding.
Yeah, that she's more open-minded, because I would have like big troubles. Like I would probably like see ya like on the plane back to New Zealand. But I'm like really, really lucky, and I don't have much to do with like my father-in-law.
I feel like fathers are a little bit more complicated as well when you meet them, because I feel like coming from a girl's perspective of meeting like a lad's father, you tend to have very little to talk to them about, and you don't know, like, because I don't know what it is. Like I always fall into like, men that are, their father's always like into cars or into working outside or farming. I'm like, I don't know. So I'm just sitting there like, oh yeah, so it's nice weather to go out in the tractor,
Yeah.
is it? Like, I don't know, it's, and they know that I'm just pulling stuff out of my arse. I struggle a lot more with the mothers I can talk to. The father, I tend to struggle a little bit more to actually have a relationship with. But in my relationship now, I actually find his dad like the second funniest man, because my dad's obviously the funniest man that I know.
Yeah.
Well, and I suppose I should put Jack as one of the funniest men that I know as well. So he's the third funniest man that I know.
Yeah.
and I get on really, really well with him. And it's really nice because I haven't really had that before. That, if I'm sitting in a room on my own with him, I can chat away to him. Whereas before, like if I sit in a room with my ex's dad, I would just be like, I have absolutely no idea what to say to you.
Yeah.
And it would just be an awkward silence of like looking around and waiting for someone else to come and join, like, or and then
But I do wonder, like, do people like being in awkward situations? Like, if you're the older person, do you just sit there and be like, oh, I just wait for them to talk? Because if I was an older person, I would make every effort to try to talk about something.
yeah, you see, that's the thing. Like, I, again, overcompensate. I do this all the time. If there's an awkward silence, I'm going to start telling you what my fucking shoe size is, or, like, I'm going to find something to talk to you about. I'll just keep going,
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what I find with, I'm kind of getting off topic, but I'm not. So, like, Germans, right? They don't do small talk. Like, at all. And so, I worked in like retail customer service in New Zealand, so like, yeah, I would say that I'm okay with small talk, but
Yeah.
oh my goodness, when I talk to like Marco's dad and I say something in basic English just to try to start a conversation, Germans always reply, okay. And I'm like, oh shit, what do I say now? So Germans tend to say okay to say like they understand, but they never elaborate on the answer.
Oh Jesus, that would kill me.
And I always want to die.
Yeah, no, that would actually like break my heart because I'm so needy. Like,
oh yeah, like you need that.
Yeah, I need validation.
Yeah, but that's like me as well. You need like that you want that feeling that they want to talk with you. They want to keep the conversation, but oh my god, it's so hard. So at first when I came to Germany, every time when I heard okay, I was like, oh, here we go. Like
conversation's over.
Yeah, conversation's over.
Have you ever had like a bad experience with the boyfriend's parents or
well, I don't really have like many boyfriends, just like flings, I guess. But I always somehow met the parents, which was really weird.
So funny.
But like I've never had like a bad experience or anything. I did have like one of my this sounds really bad, but I did
tell us.
Okay, so I did have this guy that we just had a fling, right? And his mum, she sent me like this like gift package thing, like a nice scarf and all these things, and so I was like, well, okay, I guess I should like send chocolate or whatever, because Whittaker's chocolate is like amazing, so I sent it to them.
So good.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we're getting like video chat calls and stuff.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, and so I was like, I don't even like go out with this guy, but we were just like a fling thing.
Jesus, Char, he was definitely telling her that you were in a serious relationship. Like,
You weren't even like labeled or anything.
oh, I guarantee you, he was ringing home to mommy, being like, "Oh, mom, met such a great girl over here. I think I love her."
I loved Irish people for like years because I don't know, they're so easy to talk to. Like,
we can fairly talk out of our back ends now.
yeah, I've never met like an awkward Irish before. I'm pretty sure there are awkward ones out there, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you have a story or anything?
Yes. So, for all of our lovely listeners, we did put out a thing on our Instagram for people to submit stories, which is probably going to be a thing more often. So if you have a story about anything in your 20s, even if it's not relevant to the topic we're doing that week, just send it on so that it might guide us.
Yeah.
Stop us from going on tangents, but also like it might help us like discover which topics to talk about.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
I just said like about 20 times in that sentence. I'm so sorry. So somebody submitted this lovely story about meeting an in-law for the first time. So I had been friends with my boyfriend's mum on Facebook for a while, but I had never met her in person. She was a huge personality and is generally one of those takes no shit kind of women. So we were planning a visit to her for Christmas. And in the weeks leading up to it, she messaged me asking what to get him for Christmas. And she said she was thinking about getting him a watch, which I said was a great idea because he had actually just broken his watch. Weeks went on anyway, and before we knew it, Christmas had come and it was time for me to meet the mother. I was so nervous and felt sick as we spotted them in the distance. Naturally, she gave him a big hug and then she pulled me in for one. As she was hugging me, she whispered in my ear, "You told me his fucking watch was broken."
Whoa.
I was so confused and looked at him, and sure enough, he was wearing his broken watch. So I tried to whisper back to her that it was broken, but she had let me go and was walking off ahead of me. She was so pissed off at me, and I didn't know what to do or how to get her attention to tell her. So eventually we got back to the house and I got her on her own and I told her that it was broken, and I honestly think she just didn't believe me. So eventually at the table I cracked a joke at him about wearing a broken watch and he went, sure, no, I really need to get a new one. Remind me in the January sales. And then she was delighted and nothing short of lovely to me. Definitely the awkwardest meeting I've ever had with a boyfriend's parents.
Whoa! Oh my goodness! I have no words, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd cope with that. Even just when you, I suppose you could forgive the initial, like, fuck's sake, I went and spent a load of money on a watch and he's wearing one. Like,
yeah,
okay, not a nice thing to do, not a nice first thing to say to someone. But I suppose you could forgive it. But when she goes in and tells her that the watch is broken and she just doesn't believe her.
Didn't she just meet her?
Yeah.
Yeah. What? How?
You know, you would think for the first time you're meeting your son's girlfriend that you'd be making a bit of an effort to make them feel welcome, and especially around Christmas time. You know, they're spending Christmas with you rather than at home, and you know, that's a nice thing to do, but also probably a very nerve-wracking thing to do because it's such a family time. So, not a fan.
Yeah, I personally will be like, what the fuck? I would just want to get on a plane and like leave. I'll be like, if this bitch is going to be like this to me, like,
yeah,
I don't need to spend, time with people like that.
To me, it kind of sounds like someone that's not ready to loosen the strings a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like she's not
ready to cut the ties.
Yeah,
of, being the one that does everything. And
well, I do wonder: is it different with mums and boys? Like, is it different, or is it just? Because I am scared that I'm going to be like that with my son.
Yeah, I think it is.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think they started going on about this saying at work, and like, I think it's a load of crap, to be honest. But they're like, a daughter is a daughter for life, a son is a son till he finds a wife. But you see, I think it's just harder for mums because, right, girls will probably naturally fall into that role of being a provider for someone and like doing that kind of, the wife kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean that in a way of like, oh, women stay home and cook the dinner and wash the dishes. That is not what I mean.
Yeah. So don't come after us.
Yeah. But, a caregiver. And, eventually, like, she might be a mammy or, generally. And, but I think with boys, it's probably hard for mums to see them slowly getting care and being cared by another woman. And getting all of the things that they need from a different person.
Do you think that's why they tend to want to have grandkids? Do you think?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because then there's like someone else that they can
care for.
Do you think? I'm not really sure. I'm just wondering, like, I don't want to be that crazy mum for sure, but
if your son is your youngest, especially, like empty nest syndrome and stuff like that, like I really do think that that's a real thing, you know. And it's a hard time for parents, because like Jack was the youngest in his family, so he was the last one to leave the house. And I remember whenever we decided that he was going to move in with me, I sent a message to his mum, and I was like, look, I know how hard it is when the youngest one leaves, and I was like, because like I'm the youngest in my family, and I know how it affected my parents as well whenever I left. Even though my brother only moved into the garden, but I was like, you know, I know it's still hard on parents, like whenever all the kids are out of the house, and so I kind of just sent her a message just saying that I knew it probably wasn't an easy time for them, and that we would still be up to visit, and that they could come to the apartment anytime that they wanted to, which she was really grateful for as well. But you know, he's very good that he makes a really conscious effort to see them every week, or at least video call them once a week, or even twice a week. Like he's really good like that. So I suppose they're quite lucky in that sense.
That makes me laugh, because my mum wanted us to leave home. She would joke about it, like, oh my god, my kids don't want to leave home, like, or they leave or they come back, but it's like, Mum, secretly you want us to stay. Because I do question that, like, I wonder what it's going to be like for the in-law when they're meeting like the partner, and because obviously you want the best for your kids, but then like you don't have to go way overboard to be like a bitch.
Like there's no need for that at all. And I would love to know what it's like for parents as well when they meet their kid's partner, like and even then whenever they meet their kids' partner's parents. Do you know when the parents meet each other? Like, what does that feel like? Because I feel like I'd be really awkward in that situation. I'd be like, oh, hey, our kids are doing it.
I actually think, because my parents haven't met my in-laws either.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but because what happens if the in-laws don't get along, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what happens with that? But that in-law that you talked about in the story, I would just run, you know, being like that about something so small. Then I can't imagine how it would be like if it was some bigger things. Yeah. So, well, that girl.
God love her.
Yeah, I just, that's all I got to say about that situation.
To sum it up in one word.
Yeah. Ooh. So, with the types of exes, have you had like any bad ones? Like any good ones, or because obviously in your 20s you have like, you know, a journey about dating, and it can sometimes suck like so bad.
Yeah, I was I very much wore my heart on my sleeve, I think, and I fell for people a lot quicker than they would fall for me. I'd leave myself very vulnerable to it. And I think a lot of it was a lack of self-confidence as well, that I was kind of at a stage of thinking that I wasn't going to meet anyone, that I just didn't see myself in a long-term relationship, because I don't know, like I just didn't think I was like pretty enough or funny enough, and like all of my friends were in serious relationships, like, and they're all still with their partners now, and I think it kind of just made me think, I was like, oh, I haven't met anyone at this point, like, and the odds of me meeting someone are very slim. So then when I would meet someone and go on a few dates with them and stuff, like I'd fall very hard very fast. And I think I was forcing myself to do that because
were you kind of like, okay, I'm on this date, I have to make it work no matter what?
Yeah. I think unless they were like extremely not for me, which I had encountered, that I was like, nah, do you know what? No, you're grand. But I did have a wild tendency to overlook red flags, and I had this really awful habit as well of realizing just through conversation, like picking out little details of what kind of girl it is that they like and what kind of girl they saw themselves with. And then I would like work on myself to make myself fit into that little box. And, you know, I would, you know, if they were like, oh, I'd love to be dating a gamer girl, like I'd start pretending that I liked gaming. And like, I don't at all. And I would just sit there with like a Switch and start playing games and be like, oh, I love gaming, do you know? And I was like, but I don't. It's just not me at all. There was one guy that I was going out with that was like, no, he's probably the only one that I would probably talk to if I saw him, because I feel like they were all nice. I think we just weren't compatible for each other. And a lot of that probably was the fact that I had worked so hard to try and change myself, but I felt like I was the only one that was making sacrifices. And I eventually just kind of got tired of sacrificing myself for a relationship. And I was like, do you know what? I feel like if I can't just be me, then what's the point? And I would try and get my point across and be like, you know, I'd like it if you would do this for me, or if you could do this with me, or and I would find that because I had left it so long of being this perfect girl that fits into the perfect box for them, that whenever I would ask for that, it would always get a negative comeback, because they'd be like, but sure, you've been fine with this for how long now? Like, why are you bringing this up now? And it'd be very much dismissed. So I don't think any of them were bad guys. I say this like I've had like a million exes. I had two previous relationships that I think have impacted my life in some way. So they're the ones that I'm kind of addressing. I don't think they were bad guys. I think it was more that I wasn't sure of who I was, and I needed to take that time to find who I was, and that was inevitably what ended the relationships. Well, definitely my last one ended because of that, but because more of me trying to just take care of myself and find out who I was and be 100% happy with who I am before I start trying to sacrifice myself and change myself to fit into somebody else's perspectives and expectations of me. Along with, you know, there were a lot of difficulties in the relationship as well. Like, that's not the only thing. I'm not taking 100% of the blame for that relationship ending. There was two parties involved and plenty of reasons that it came to an end. But that was the real push for me to end it, was that I just knew I wasn't happy. And I remember just sitting there one day, and I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, this shouldn't be how it should be.
I totally agree, because I feel like you have to know yourself before you jump into like any sort of relationship, I think.
Definitely.
You hear that all the time when you're young, and you're like, whatever, like, I don't need...
You're like, no, I just want a boyfriend.
Oh, I had this friend that was always like, I just want a boyfriend, and I'm like, bro, like, you want a boyfriend, but you need to, like, you can't just jump into like any relationship just because you want a boyfriend. Like,
because you can always, like, with every relationship, there's going to be positives and negatives. It's just the balance between those. And I think whenever you take a step back and you realize that there's a lot more negatives than positives, and the positives are only stemming from you pretending to be something that you're not, it's probably not a good relationship.
It definitely bites you on the butt in the future. Like, if you're pretending to be someone else, you will not be happy for sure.
It'll catch up on you. But I kind of strayed from your from your question a little bit. I don't think any of them, I wouldn't classify them as bad people or not jobs or crazy people or anything like that. But
Yeah, because like we're pretty lucky we don't have like the crazy ex compared to like other people that's probably listening. That probably have the crazy one.
Yeah, I feel sorry for anyone that's ever had to encounter a crazy ex. I can't imagine the stress of that.
That would not be easy. Like you
No.
would, and it would be hard because sometimes you just don't want to tell people that, you know, your ex is crazy, and because then people start judging you. Like, how could you not see that, or blah blah blah? And it's like,
yeah. And I feel like when you start using the terminology crazy for someone that you used to go out with as well, a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, well of course you were going to say that.
yeah.
So I feel like it can probably be dismissed by a lot of people as well, as in like, oh yeah, well you were telling your side of the story.
Yeah.
And you know, you're the one going around like name calling them crazy now and everything. So I feel like people can make it reflect poorly on you as well if you do open up about like if you do have a crazy ex. I feel like a lot of people can instantly judge you and be like, no, well, you're just saying that now, like you're making that up and you're trying to slander their name and blah 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 blah. So very complicated. So I'm sorry
Very
if there's anyone dealing with that. I do not envy you, but we are here for you.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever had the ghost ex, which is like someone that just all of a sudden disappears and you never hear or see from them ever again?
I don't know. I guess. Well, I don't know.
I had, when I was, how old was I? I think 19, 20. So I went out with this guy and I was really young, but he was like probably 20, I think 27 at the time, 28. Yeah, that's old, but I did like my older guys back in the day. So it was actually weird because he proposed to me when I was like still young, and obviously I said no because like yeah. So I was like still a baby, you know?
Yeah. Oh
and
my
so
God.
When I said no, we kind of just like we talked a little bit after that, but then I went to Switzerland and then I came back and he said that I was different. So
yes.
so I think, you know, me being away and just, you know, finding myself or whatever and coming back, I think he was like, oh, you're different. And then I was like, yeah, well, you know, I'm still young and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then all of a sudden disappeared.
Do you think that was very much that he was like, he didn't like your independence? Like you could go off without him and be fine and not come back and be like, I had the worst time ever and I missed you so much.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because I definitely think that played a part in it. Because I think this sounds bad, but I think he liked someone that wasn't as independent and that could just be, you know,
like rely on him.
Yeah. For some reason, exes always pop up or like flings when they see you moving on.
I don't know, you kind of fall into this role of like their fallback, like their safety net, and I'm like, hey, I'm not your fucking safety net.
Yeah.
Like, bugger off, you know?
Just let me live. Like
yeah, because I think I ended up, I think I was in relationships to try and find myself, which is it's just the wrong way to do it, you know. But I think I always kind of thought like that a relationship would teach me who I am and teach me what I'm meant to be like and everything. And then I think it was just like I was kind of slowly coming to that realization of like, no, like, this isn't teaching me anything. No.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I need to take time for me and learn myself. Like,
but I feel like as human beings, we just have to always go through this. You know, like we're so stubborn. You know, older people or whatever, experienced people will always tell us like, no, you need to know yourself. And it's like, no, I don't. Like, I know who I am. I'm only like 20 or whatever. We just don't listen.
No, we
just
don't. We don't. We have to learn the hard way.
I have this friend that always asks for advice. I give the advice and they do the exact opposite.
Like top-notch advice to other people, and then I just don't use it myself at all. And I'm like, if I could just listen to myself, like I would have flown through life, you know. But
Yeah.
I was like, instead, I decided to ignore myself.
People just know that relationships are not perfect. You both
No.
have to put in the work. Like, I think sometimes these days, some people think you have to have that perfect relationship.
Yeah.
But to be honest, there's no perfect relationship. And I'm not, well, my advice is never go back to an ex. That's just my advice.
Yeah, same as. I
Because
second that advice.
Yeah, because there's a reason why you broke up in the first place.
Yeah, don't go backwards, go
So
forwards.
don't go back. Yeah, go forwards. But I also have a
Yes.
story about what someone did when they were together, but I'm guessing it's an ex now.
Mm-hmm.
So I will read it.
Yes.
So, I wish I cheated on you when I had the chance.
Oh,
during
Jesus.
an argument over this very flirtatious girl who I was very uncomfortable with. Oh, I already don't like this guy.
I am so on edge already. Oh my god.
I'm not usually the jealous type, so when I do get jealous, it usually is when something is not right. Felt like he was flirting back with her over the top and made having a girlfriend seem like not a big deal. And we had a few talks about it before, but he always deflected it, made me feel insecure, and the relationship didn't last. Wow. Okay, first of all, if your man is doing this,
Yeah.
like, that's just not right. And saying that he wished he cheated on you when you're like arguing, that's a big red flag there. Well, I mean, if someone is saying stuff like that, it turns out to be true, I reckon.
Yeah.
Like, it's in their mind.
Yeah, people have arguments and things are said in the heat of the moment, but stuff like that, I think that is a sign that it's been on their conscience for a while and
Yeah.
something that they have been thinking for a while, because you don't just pluck that out of thin air. Like when
No
you're
way.
saying stuff in the heat of the moment, it's stuff that's already embedded in your head and you're just like fucking spitballing.
He's got wondering eyes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's not only his eyes that have been wandering.
Arguments are supposed to be things that you talk about to, how do I put it? Improve or like meet halfway kind of thing. But that's not right.
Like that's not an argument. That's just vindictive, like
that's just
emotional manipulation to be like, oh, you should be grateful that I haven't cheated on you because I've thought about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks for not doing that.
Yeah.
Do you want a reward or something?
Yeah. Like
just
I just want to give the listener a big hug. I'm giving you a virtual hug.
Yeah, and I'm just giving you some hardcore advice. Nah.
Right, folks. So I think that's probably enough of us blabbering.
Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast,
please share, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review.
To catch all the latest from us, follow our Instagram at GFGT_podcast and our Facebook at caps lock GFGT podcast.
And once again, thank you so much for listening. And if you are still here at the end, fair play to you. And we will see you next time.
Happy trails!